Hi guys, welcome back to a new episode of What a K-Drama. I have my very special guest with me today.
Hi!
Orianti is going to teach us all about Sageuk dramas, so stay tuned to learn more.
So how you remember me, Orianthi was here a couple of episodes back to talk about the Netflix boom, among other things. Today we're basically going to talk about Seoguk dramas, and actually just before we started, Kathleen had a great question, which I think is a good introduction into what Seoguks are. So there's a general conflation that people tend to make when talking about Seoguk dramas and Joseon. So Joseon is just sort of the medieval period of Korean history. It's starting at like 14th century all the way up to 19th. Basically up to like the wars and so on. Well, there was a lot of war before. And Seoguk dramas. So while Joseon tends to be the prime hotspot for Seoguk drama settings, it's not the only one.
No.
So Seoguk literally just means historical or period. And while in Korean, this can mean anything from like a historical novel, even a historical comic strip, or a theater, a movie, a play, and so on. And obviously dramas as well.
Yeah.
Like in the drama world, generally it just means historical dramas and movies.
So basically it's the overarching name for all period pieces.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, okay, and that's fair.
And that's actually kind of a really important point because it essentially means that it's not like, it's a genre, but it's not really, that's not telling you much about what's going to happen in the drama.
It's like always a surprise.
Because like depending on what the focus of the drama is.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
It could be a procedural police drama, just, it's a procedural police drama set in Joseon. Or it could be a romance drama, and it's just, a romance drama set in the Goryeo period.
Could be a time travel one.
There's, a fantasy drama. So you have kind of all kinds.
You have a zombie one.
There's a zombie one, yes, true. Kingdom.
I've seen two, so I'm just going to bring those up anytime I can.
Okay.
So,
Kingdom is very good.
Very good.
Yeah,
yes.
Especially if you do like historical dramas and zombies, it's a perfect crux.
I was just there for the zombies and they do not.
Yeah. So,
and I got lucky because it was amazing. So.
And I was going to say, even if you're not into the historical dramas, the zombies alone are probably a good pull.
The zombies will take you in. Yeah.
So actually, historical dramas in Korea, they're actually really, really popular.
Yes.
They were much more popular before. When they started making dramas for television, the first couple of topics that they had were pretty much our own history. Their own history. So like most of the dramas that were going on were Saguks. One of them, the longest running one, being a drama series literally called 500 Years of Joseon. So kind of all of it.
Okay.
And it ran for like 8 years.
Not 500 years?
No, it ran for 8 years. I know, deceptive. And basically it wasn't like a single drama. It was more like 11 different dramas, one after the other, about the different parts of Joseon.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was all consecutive, but it was very historical. It was like they were delving into the annals of history and getting out the context and literally giving you a look in how that would be.
So instead of studying for your history exams, you would watch the show?
I'm not sure because I haven't watched that and I don't actually think it's possible to find that online. You'll have to dig pretty deep. But it was as accurate as a TV show was going to get, let's say.
Okay.
They were going for accuracy.
Yeah.
That was their main thing. They were not sort of sensationalizing it. They weren't dropping random characters in, Mary Sue's or otherwise. It was very straightforward.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's kind of means that young people kind of lost interest.
As they tend to do, yeah.
So, they kind of, Saguks kind of took a dive in popularity until especially during the 90s. And then in the early 2000s, it kind of came back.
They're like, hey, we're back.
Yeah. Because I think producers kind of realized that, look, we can't miss out on this trove of topics and of things to put out there. But we just need a new angle. So let's drop in the Mary Sues. Let's bring in the action. Let's do some wire fu. Let's basically try more stuff. And that kind of gave birth to the modern Seoguk, which is otherwise called like fusion Seoguk. I think that's a term is a bit confusing for a lot of people because like if you say fusion, people assume that it's more...
All I can think of is the Asian fusion cuisine.
Yeah, you're thinking of like, if it's mixing things. But I think that comes back to the genre thing. So like... If we're thinking dramas like the 500 years of Joseon, then that's just historical. Like, that was aiming for accuracy, that was aiming for like not a dramatized version of events. Like there was a lot of research going on, etc. It wasn't just about the relationships between the people, it's about the actual progress of historical events. So the fusion part comes in the well, now instead we're going to focus on the specific person and their history.
Like it's going to be a love triangle, but in olden times.
Not necessarily. Like there's a lot of them that are about real people, so they're not necessarily factually inaccurate.
Okay.
Like they might throw in a few things there and go extra.
Yeah. Like, oh hey, there's dragons.
And like it's not that extra.
Look, it'd be dope. Just saying.
But they're still they're still doing a pretty straightforward thing in terms of like we're following this person throughout their life, and the more interesting thing is kind of a rather than a historical drama, because it is historical. Yeah, it's more about like a biography or a biopic is the right word. I think. So there's still you still get off, and obviously other ones would be zombies, romance, and so on.
I'm still waiting for the dragons.
There's also some with dragons, not dragons, but other mythical beasts. It would be, and where to find them. So like in the early 2000s, basically there were a couple of fusion Seoguks that came out that was a bit of a turning point for the genre, and it kind of got more young people into it, so it saw a bit of a revival. And now they have a bit of a specific following still. Like it's still the genre that then people in Korea would still associate more with like older people thing, but it's not only anymore.
Because I think nowadays in the Sageuk dramas, you see a lot of like idol actors.
Exactly.
Which is why I think it helps with like the younger generation to get them into it more. Yeah.
And it also like affects a little bit like the overall sort of mood of the
of course. Yeah.
There's a bit of a scale, we'll get to it, of the Sageuk's.
Okay.
Well, it can help you place where you want it on the map. Okay. But basically, so in the early 2000s, there was Horjun, which was about a hero. There was Damon, about a female policewoman in Joseon. That was with Haji-won, the same one from Secret Garden.
Okay.
So she was also badass in other shows, not just like as a standalone in Secret Garden. And then in 2005, there was the movie The King and the Clown. Read our review on the website. Seriously, by the way, Lee Jung-gi and Sageuk's kind of just like a very good mix. And that movie, by the way, is like one of the most viewed movies in Korea, like domestic movies. Ever. Although the highest grossing domestic film in Korea ever is also a Seoguk movie. It's called Admiral Yi. Well, it's not Admiral Yi, it's just Admiral.
Is that
Roaring Carrots? Well, yes, it is one of the books. But that came out in 2014. Have you seen that?
No, but it keeps popping up in lists, and
seriously,
I'm just like, I'm not into boats.
No, but his whole thing. I mean, he was a naval admiral. Of course, there's boats.
I know, but it's like it's still boats. You know what I mean?
Boats.
If you throw in a mermaid, I'm here for it.
No mermaids.
If it's just boats, I'm like.
That's it. Let's be fair.
It's like my dad giving me a book of. It's called like Waterworld. And he was like, "Yeah, read it. It's amazing." And I'm like,
I know that one. The one that they tried to make a movie with Russell Crowe. That did not go well.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Anyway,
Random family moments.
No, but to be fair, like Admiral Yi, I'm sure there's a drama or a comic somewhere where there are also mermaids. He's like.
Send me a link.
He's an author favorite. Like as we said, like most Seoguk dramas would be set in Joseon, and then even beyond that, there's some topics that tend to come up a lot Like, just because they're fan favorite and author favorites, and just the gift that keeps on giving. Really.
So if you hear like a random mention of an Admiral Yi, it's like, oh, okay, that's the dude from the ships.
Yes, okay. But to be fair, he's one of the most revered heroes in Korean history.
Based on a real person, okay.
Yes, and like the real person was seriously like an extremely cool guy. He started out in poverty and then he rose through the ranks and then he lost everything again because people were getting jealous of him and they conspired against him. But that didn't stop him from like rising up again and supporting his king and like driving off the Japanese in some pretty epic naval battles. Like the one the movie's about, like he literally had like 13 ships. The Japanese had like 300.
Impressive.
He won.
But still, it's like boats.
Fair enough. But yeah, no, seriously, very cool historical persona.
I'll read his Wikipedia page.
I've actually been to the museum of that battle in Korea. It was really cool, but yeah, it was all about boats. It basically explained the different types of boats. So yeah, I get it. But then the real landmark drama was in 2003, Daejangum. And by the way, we'll get to that, but like Daejangum is the story of the first female physician in Joseon, in Korea in general. And it's a true story. Obviously, again, it's dramatized, it's sensationalized, but it's excellent.
Okay.
It is really excellent. It has about like 54 episodes, I think, so it's a bit on the longer side.
Oh god.
Oh, Sageuk tends to be longer. Like if Sageuk is like 24 episodes and under, it's like so short.
Oh my god. Okay. That feels like a commitment.
It is. It takes a, because the thing is, it gets a while for the story to take off because they need to give you so much context.
Yeah.
And like I think it's also one of the things that make or break these dramas, how well they manage to pace all the information.
Yeah.
Out. Because if they give you too much in the beginning, you're just like, what is happening?
I love it when they like show a character and he gets like a little name plates thingy, and it's like, okay, that dude. Yeah.
Yeah. That really helps.
Yeah.
Because especially, you kind of need to remember all the names.
Yeah.
And
because if they're like talking backstabbery and they're like mentioning names and you're like,
who are you backstabbing now?
Oh my god. Google.
What was the thing? And the thing is, like, obviously spoilers get a bit of a flexible understanding, because if you're Googling someone from a Sageuk that's actually sort of following some level of historical accuracy, or at least portraying some real people, you need to like not hit the Wikipedia page.
Yeah,
like it will spoil the drama. And yeah, so Daejangum came out in 2003, and everyone fell in love with that show.
Yeah.
It was actually by the same director who had done the 500 Years of Joseon. And he has continued to do like Sageuks, but like, so he's basically had done all that research from that. But he wanted to continue doing that, but in a more sort of effective way to reach audiences and people watching it. So,
do you think his personal library is just all history books?
Probably.
Okay.
And Daejangum was like, by the way, another another favorite topic for historical dramas, and that might sound surprising, is awesome women. There's so many. There's more dramas about like, the first female physician in Joseon, or like a famous pottery maker at Queen of Fire or something. About the last empress of Goryeo, about the last empress of Korea, about another empress of Korea.
Mrs. Sunshine was also a badass woman.
Yeah, just generally, there's a lot of powerful females at the center of Korean historical dramas, and I think it's possibly because also just by the context, there's going to be struggle.
Yes,
and it lends itself better
to have strong women.
To dramatize and to like a serialized sort of storytelling.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some common tropes to keep in mind. So we did say that Sageuks are not the same genre, but there are some things that are just true, no matter what Sageuk you're watching, whether it has zombies or whether it has, dragons. No dragons so far. So the zombies one was an exception to that rule, but mostly. The first few episodes will always be the tragic origin story. I say the tragic origin story because like
or something.
It's like, even if it's like, I mean, realistically speaking, most of them, like if we're telling the story of like a kick-ass woman who started from having nothing, then the backstory is like seeing her growing up in the having nothing situation. So obviously tragic backstory. If you're seeing a revenge story, it's the thing that prompted the person to want to take revenge. So
someone they love will die.
It's a tragic backstory. So generally parents are very rare in Seoguk drama protagonists.
Is this a Disney movie? What?
Yeah, I was about to say. I'd say it's comparable to a Disney princess.
That's fair.
The lack of
loving that comparison.
Protagonist having parents alive. But there are parental figures. Obviously.
Yeah.
And then, that was actually the second point. Parental figures and parents will get murdered. And you just need to be okay with that. So, like, everybody you see in the first 5 episodes of Sageuk do not get attached.
It's like Game of Thrones.
Just, like, don't get attached. Like, maybe they'll survive and you'll be like, whew.
Do we get attached to the main character? Or should we be careful with that?
I mean, you will get attached to the main character.
That's fair.
But because it's in a Sageuk, there is no guarantee that they will survive. Now, another one. Hair is everything.
Yes.
And I mean, while that is true of life and many other things, in Seoguk dramas, this is also very true because it literally tells you so many things about who is the person in front of you.
Yeah.
So, like, you know, depending if they have the hair up in a knot and if they're wearing a hat over it or if they're not wearing a hat or what kind of hat they're wearing, it tells you if they're a noble, if they're in the military, how high a noble they are.
You know their social status just from looking at the hair.
Yeah. But then if they have facial hair, you're like, rogue.
Oh my God. He a baddie.
Obviously, when I say facial hair, I mean like a full beard, because obviously if they have like a little thingy that's very trimmed and careful, then it's emperor or evil sort of magistrate kind of situation.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Or like a scholar.
Exactly,
Yes.
Then, okay. Being framed as a traitor all day long.
What? Give me context, girl.
So remember how I mentioned the real Admiral Yi at some point during his life, he got framed as a traitor and lost like everything he owned, but it was spared execution because of his previous. So that was a thing that was actually happening a lot in Joseon times. Because like when other nobles or aristocrats got jealous of someone, they would make a plot and fabricate evidence and make them like, you know, to be traitors.
Traitor, as in a traitor of the king?
Yeah. Like, of actually treason. So to commit treason, and so that's
potatoes. Treason.
Like kill his entire family.
Okay. Wow.
And so that happens a lot in Seoguk dramas as well. And like before I knew that was actually a thing that happened in history as well, I was like, my God, okay, come on. Like, what is up with all those fake treasons?
And they even killed the servants then, right?
Yes, no, seriously.
Yeah.
Everyone killed their entire family in their home.
They were about to do that in Mr. Sunshine. I remember that.
Yeah, no, because like servants were property, so it's like, we're supposed to take all of your property, so let's kill the servants.
Disturbing.
Yeah, it's great. Anyway. Now, we mentioned the names. We cannot stress this enough. You have to keep track of the names. Because it's not just the name of the person, but it's also the title of the person. And occasionally that title has like 3 or 4 different versions. And then maybe if the person is posing to be as a different person, maybe they have a couple of aliases. So the names. Pay attention to the names. Like keep a notebook. I'm kidding.
Honestly,
but it's
so much work.
It's not gonna it's not gonna hurt. And that's not true of all Saguks, but like in general, I think the more you watch, the easier it gets. Because
just pull up the K-drama wiki, you know.
And to be like, the more of them you watch, the easier it gets because you start understanding what the different titles mean.
Yeah.
But then the first one you're gonna watch, you're gonna be like, what is the Crown Princess? How is that different from the Queen Dowager?
What does that mean?
I mean, that or or you watched The Crown before, and those are all like. Yeah, I can say
I watched The Crown and I still don't understand sometimes. So that's
fair enough.
You know.
Okay. And then the last thing, you do need to adjust your expectations of what constitutes a happy ending with Saguks, I feel.
Okay.
Because I mean, often, obviously, if they're based on the life of real persons, so if they're biopic, then there is a very specific thing that happened to them in history and it's historical fact. So how far the drama is willing to diverge from that is another story, but like generally it wouldn't. And even when the person is like a fictional person set in a real timeline, because the setting is existing, like maybe they're entangled with what's actually happening in like the real period at the time, so they get affected by that in some way. So, you know, basically, like if the main character and their love interest survive at the end, that's like a really good ending. You're like, yeah.
So percentage-wise, how many times does that happen, you think? Like 35?
I don't know. I haven't watched, like, I mean, I've watched quite a few, but I think there's so many out there, and I'm not like...
Because Mrs. Sunshine had me in tears. I'll just pretend that last episode didn't exist.
It's not a good percentage, anyway. But it's not so bad. It depends on which ones you pick to watch. You can protect your heart.
That's fair. That's fair.
Okay. Now, I promised you a Sageuk scale.
Yes, give it to me.
Okay. So we range from, there's two axes, right? Like if you imagine this as a little cross, there's two axes. Axes, whatever. So one of them would be how historically relevant and accurate this is. So if we start from like history serialized, this is where you have your Admiral Roaring Currents, the Jangum that we mentioned, you know, so like you're about a real person, a historical event.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, obviously it's not necessarily 100% not historically accurate, but like it's history serialized. And then you have all the way to the other side, which is like here for the outfits.
Just a fashion show.
It's like we're basically here for the outfits. And this is where, so like, you know, the setting is irrelevant. The plot could also possibly be irrelevant. The kings might be fictional in that setting, so it's like in a fictional setting of the Korean Joseon.
Yeah.
Or there are real people, like real historical figures in it, but like what they do and how they end up is completely fictional in itself.
Okay.
Mostly those would be like the idol dramas. I think Hwarang. That's like the best example.
Yeah, okay.
Or in the, at least sort of pretending to not be just here for the outfits, like Moon Embracing the Sun. Like that was a good drama to watch, but like, just guys, that's all nonsense. But there were no actual dragons, but kind of.
Okay.
And on the, and then on the how magical it is, we have a...
Are we going up and down then?
Yes, we're going up and down.
Yeah.
On how magical it is, we have the, well, superstition is a word. Because, I mean, obviously this is medieval times, ancient times. There would be superstition. There would be sort of more like hoodoo and mysterious occurrences and beliefs or whatever. But, like, there's the, well, you know, the diviners said this and maybe your child will die or your child will kill you. And that's about it. To all the way to supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
The dragon side.
The dragon side.
Okay.
So that would be the zombies, yes. So, you know, like from them...
Zombies aren't real?
So, you know, on the side of the... Well, it's not really fantasy at all.
Yeah.
You'd have stuff like, you know, Mr. Sunshine or Empress Key. And then on the supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, I love saying that word. You'd have stuff like The Legend. Definitely not dragons, but other mythical beasts.
Okay.
Something like a dark phoenix. Literally a dark phoenix, but not the Marvel one. Don't sue us. And then basically, like, I guess the other way to divide would be whether the focus is on a palace drama, so more like intrigue and like whispers, politics,
backstabbery.
So much backstabbery. Or whether it's like an action sort of, it's happening outside where the real battles are fought.
Yeah, of course.
Warfu, etc.
Lovely.
And and then again, it's more whether it's more focused on a specific plot point, or whether it's more romance focused.
Yeah,
which is still a plot point. But it's kind of, you know, it's that's the romance that's driving the story, or whether it's something else that's driving the story. Doesn't mean there's no romance. It just means there's just something that's happening in the background.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm following.
Okay. Now, we've prepared a list of recommendations, depending on where you want to start with it.
Okay.
So, Ilse, you've watched Mr. Sunshine and Kingdom. Okay. But if you were to dive in, from the scale that we've just decided, if it's just defined,
Okay.
where do you think you might find yourself more drawn to?
The supercalifragilisticexpialidocious.
Okay.
That part.
With a dose of history of like whatever.
I don't mind that.
Okay. Well, that kind of brings us. So we'll start with the fantasy section.
Give it to me.
So the fantasy section. This is basically, we're still loosely or solidly footed in the history section.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still sort of, these dramas are still taking place in a historical period, mostly.
Okay.
But then the meter for the fantasy stuff is really, really hitting red.
Okay.
So for me, I'd say my top recommendation would be Gu Family Book.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a review for that. Please read that on the website. And this is basically Gumihos and Admiral Yi, but not as many boats.
No boats. Okay,
I mean,
good. I was going to
obviously,
ask.
There are boats, but it's not like the main focus. The main focus is
Okay.
the Gumiho stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, a Gumiho is like nine-tails demon beast, and also Susie.
That's cute. That might sell me.
She
Okay.
was so good in this.
Really?
Yeah.
Cute.
The ending. It's fine. And the other one I would recommend is The Legend.
Okay.
So that actually is a bit of a standout in itself. Like, it was a massive production when it came out. And it's about a legend.
Really? Wow.
Who would have thought? So it's about the legend of Gwangato the Great.
Okay.
Only 2 kings in Korean history have had the attribute the Great given to them. One of them is Gwangato. Gwangato. Yeah, I'm saying that right. And the second one is Sageuk. Sageuk is the guy who did the alphabet.
Ah.
So like, you know,
Gotcha. Yeah.
also fan favorite.
Mm-hmm.
But Gwangato is like the guy who basically united the kingdoms.
Yeah.
So that's pre-Joseon. That's like 4th century Korea. That's a while back. And there was a legend that there were like 4 mythical beasts that would follow the true king, who would then proceed to unite these kingdoms.
Okay.
So he was a child of the prophecy. And then the mythical beasts were like literal mythical beasts.
Okay, work. I'm following.
And yeah, it had like the phoenix, the white tiger, the azure dragon, and the turtle snake. And yeah, like 4 divine guardians.
So
basically.
there is a dragon.
So as I said, I mean, there is a dragon, yes.
So wait. Okay.
So that's high on that meter.
Yeah.
So it's like, that was a very historical figure, and like he did do all those things, but the presence of the dragons kind of. Yeah. So that's what I mean with the fantasy section. So I think maybe we should kind of like take a step back and like start from the hardcore recommendations though, because I think we jumped into the fantasy section.
Yeah.
But let's maybe start from the.
Chill back a bit more. Okay.
Let's maybe just take it back to the basics.
Okay.
So if you're feeling like Sageuk is the way to go, and you also want to learn some history while you're at it, but obviously not as much history that you want to dive into the depths of the internet and find 500 years of Joseon, these are the ones for you. So here we would have series like Empress Myeonsong, or Yisan, Wind of the Palace. Empress Myeonsong was a very, well, another kick-ass lady, really. It's a palace drama, you may have guessed from the Empress name.
A little.
It has an awesome soundtrack, and it has episodes for days. So it's 124 episodes.
That's a lot.
Yeah. On the other hand, I have so much free time. Ta-da!
Their vacation's coming up.
Yeah, I mean, actually, they changed the actress who played the Empress Myeonsong sort of through the. She had only signed on for 100 episodes, and they decided that they wanted the show to run longer, and they kind of asked her to stay. She was like, "Nope, out,
like,
I'm
thank
out.
you. I'm done with this character.
Done." But both the original actress and the one who replaced her did an awesome job. And yeah, the whole thing is a lot sort of, stolen glances, such intensity.
Pride and Prejudice moments.
Yes.
Okay.
Because and that's the historical aspect of it too. Like, Empress Myeonsong sort of had to sacrifice her own love to
Be an empress?
To be an empress, yeah, to marry the girl.
Yeah.
But like, so throughout the show, you see her exchanging glances with this guy that she likes, and he loves her, that she loves, and he loves her back, but obviously they never do anything, and it's just sort of, it's all just like tension.
It comes with the job. You know what I mean?
Tension.
I love a good tension moment.
And oh my god, that soundtrack. Yeah. And Yisan, Wind of the Palace, is about King Jeongjo. So King Jeongjo is another king, not one of the greats, but still a very good one. It's King Jeongjo, they're very good. They're not quite great, but still very good. I don't think that's
just okay one.
I don't think it's his official title, but he was actually a really beloved king because he brought on many reforms that like helped the common people and took away some power from the nobles.
Okay.
So people that give the nobles.
I can see that they didn't give him the noble title because that's the great title. So.
I don't think that's more about how it was perceived from the
nobles didn't give the titles?
No, those are all posthumous titles. I think it's more about like sort of the overall contribution to the history.
Okay.
And I think that's why it's kind of so reserved for really...
Only the greats. Yeah.
Top tier, final boss.
So did he get like the pretty good title? Or...
That's what I'm saying. So I'm guessing he got like the pretty good, just not quite great.
Like, okay.
And yeah, so that one is not as long. That's like 77 episodes. Hey,
girl! Oh my god. Okay.
So it does take some liberties with like the storytelling.
Yeah.
But it mostly just follows the historical records. So it's very good. And then if you're not in it for the drama binge, movies. Movies in the hardcore section would be Admiral.
The boats.
That's it. That's it.
Okay.
I mean, I think all the other ones, it would still be historical, but I would fit them under a different section.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
That's fair.
And that brings us to another category. So with this category, we're still solidly in the history serialized sort of section. Different ranges of it, but it's solidly on this side of the... Like... On the history side of the scale. Yeah. And this is the Unbreakable Females.
Love a good moment like that.
There's tons here. Like, I mean, technically Empress Myeonsong might as well have been in here, but because it's just so much more extra, like clearly falls under hardcore. Here we definitely have Daejanggung that we mentioned before.
Yeah.
I would 100% recommend it to everyone. Like, it's a very, very good drama. So, like, I get it, like, it might not be everyone's cup of tea because it's so many episodes and it's 54 episodes.
Look, if it's not 124, I can accept it. Yeah. I guess.
And Lee Yoon-ae played Daejanggung, and like her performance is just incredible and mesmerizing, and all of the good words. Like, she delivered such a powerful performance. It was absolutely magnificent.
Yeah.
A more recent one, still 2013. Like, in my head, this is like a couple of years back. Don't question that, because I feel old. Another one would be sort of Goddess of Fire. That's only 31 episodes.
Fish posh. That's an afternoon. Yeah.
I mean, 31 hours, yeah. And that's about a pottery maker, basically. That was a really good
pottery maker that I mentioned, yeah.
And we'd have Queen Seonjok. She was the first female ruler of Silla. Silla is another period of Korean history that's pre-Joseon. And it's also the legend guy. So we're really in ancient history. So
I feel like I'm just learning from this conversation that we're having.
So the legend guy, so Gwanggae-do, like basically he united Silla, Baekje, and Goryeo, and she was the queen of Silla. So she precedes that.
Okay.
And then another one would be Empress Ki. I think this is about 50 or 60 episodes as well. This is also Hajjiwon.
Okay.
And this is in the later Goryeo period, so again, ancient Korea. And yes, hashtag girl boss. guys.
Girl boss, gatekeep, gaslight.
Empress Gi was such a powerful character, such a strong sort of resolve.
Yeah.
To do what's right. And yeah, so we have kind of a bit of a split here, because obviously most of these would be more on the intrigue, let's say, side than the action side. Like, these are not, there's no so much action here. And they would mostly be based either in like a palace situation or in a real life
village.
In a village, and eventually like a mansion, whatever situation. And the pain, the intrigue. Consistent.
Yeah.
And these are all real historical figures. So if they are biopics, they do take liberties, obviously, but you will learn a couple of things still.
Yeah.
Like, don't take it with a grain of salt, basically. Don't assume that that's a thing they told each other, but like, this is the actual end result that happened to their lives.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Then right between this and the fantasy section, we have what I would like to call, I know it's a very creative name, the in-betweeners. Not the crappy British show.
No.
So this is basically your historical fiction, non-fantasy section.
Okay.
So it's all fiction. So you have your fictional characters set in there, but it's mostly like, this is a story about a fictional person in a historical time. So like the historical stuff does happen, but it's kind of like the backdrop of the other thing.
Yeah.
Or in some cases, some of these are actually based on historical novels. Some of them are based on comic books. Yeah. Not necessarily recent comic books. Like one of these, Warrior Baekdong-soo, is based on a comic strip from like the 17th century.
Oh.
Yeah.
Fancy.
And and even between these series, there's quite a bit of range in terms of how accurate they are, or like how seriously they take themselves. But still, they're very much a wide area.
Yeah.
So here we'd have Tree with Deep Roots. That's about how they made Hangul. So it doesn't focus on King Sejong.
Yeah.
It focuses on another character who's the fictional person.
Yeah.
Who helps with the process.
Okay.
And then you have Painter of the Wind. That's basically Moon Young posing as a boy to be an artist's apprentice. It was really cute. It was a very good drama. And then you have stuff like Princess Man. So that's very, very romance. That's very, very angst.
Yeah.
So much angst. Park Si-hoo and Moon Chae-won as the protagonists in this had the best chemistry ever. But like, I was a really big fan of Park Si-hoo, especially at the time when I watched this. But like, Moon Chae-won just blew me away. Her performance was incredible. She could say dragons and you'd be like, yes, where? I can see them. There were no dragons in this one, but I mean, like, she was so convincing. Like, she sold every single line.
Yeah.
And they also did like a very good balance between the fictional bit and the actual history part. So like all the history stuff that happens, that's actually all the stuff that happened.
Okay.
And then they managed to mesh the fictional bits in very well. That's my feeling. And then sort of you have Warrior Baekdong-soo. That's martial arts and love triangles, basically.
Great.
All of the love triangles. PTSD from the love triangles in the channel.
I don't like love triangles.
But it has a really good soundtrack. If you want to go run up a mountain and do martial arts, that's the main theme is very inspirational on that front. Love in the Moonlight, I would put here. That was such a cute drama.
Have I seen that?
No? It's Park Bo-gum.
That's Kathleen's Apartments.
But so that was such a good drama. So that is actually...
You watched the pilots.
I have?
Yeah, you dropped it halfway through.
Shameful.
Park Bo-gum was played as a prince here, and this was based on a historical novel, also from the Joseon era. So that was like, So that's more fluff than pretty much everything else we mentioned in this list.
Okay.
Especially because it gives the characters a better ending than history did.
Oh.
It spares some people.
Spoiler alert!
It spares some people that historically died. tragically.
Okay.
Which was nice of them. I appreciated that. And then, you know, Mr. Sunshine would fall here.
Yay!
So it's like, you know, it's people that didn't exist, but like everything else happened.
Yeah, it's so badass though.
Yeah. And yeah, it's straight up a masterpiece. That's all I'm going to say here. In terms of movies, if you're not into watching a drama for your first dive into this, The King's Letters, also about Hangul. Shockingly, it's not like a King's Speech kind of situation. The Throne, as you might guess, it's Intrigue Central. Forbidden Dream.
Sounds like a forbidden romance.
It wasn't. That's what I
wasn't?
thought it would be. It was more about sort of like the forbidden dream of like, you know, wanting to change things. And like,
Okay.
they actually did a really good job of like portraying specific characters.
Okay, lovely.
And yeah, now for the action things.
Okay.
So like, you know, would you rather be watching anime but with people? Double the action, triple the excitement. You kind of be hard pressed to find any Sageuks without action scenes, especially more recent ones. But you know, these are the ones where like that's the main thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Like that's they're about the arts. Warrior Baekdong-soo also falls here. I think the main differentiation to do here in terms of categories is whether the protagonist is like a lawful good kind of guy. So like, I work for the king versus a chaotic good. I don't work for the king, but I'm still a good guy. Like, it's like maybe I'm a rebel, but like I'm
golden heart.
I'm like a righteous rebel.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'm a thief, but like I only steal from the rich.
Okay.
Which would be both Iljime and Hongil-dong, both Robin Hood types. Hongil-dong is actually like the first Korean character. Like, and they actually use that name the same way they use John Doe in America.
Oh.
It's like the generic name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, you know, as a fictional character, the original idea was like of a thief with a heart of gold.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah.
They remade that. So there's now also a second Hongil-dong, which is called The Rebel. I'm not sure if the new one's good. The old one was okay as a drama. Like, I think it really depends on whether you like the cast or not. And yeah, historical accuracy here is optional to irrelevant.
Yeah. That's fair.
Yeah. Movies, I'd recommend Memories of the Sword. That was a really good one. Or The Pirates.
More boats?
More boats.
Why are there so many boats?
It's a naval kingdom. I mean,
I don't care.
there would be boats. Okay. And then we have the romance front and center. It's like, pack your tissues. If you want your romance characters to all be dressed in like nice period outfits and dramatic hair, these are the dramas for you. We mentioned Princess Man. I'd mention it here again because, oh my god, that was so good. Love in the Moonlight again here. Moon Lovers, Scarlet Heart would fall here.
I love the IU moments.
Like, that drama is completely optional, the history part of it. But the romance is there. And also Lee Jung-gi, as we said, solid connection with historical dramas.
It's been on my to-watch list for, like, forever. But
I have mixed feelings about it.
Oh.
I love IU. I love Lee Jung-gi. The drama. Anyway.
Fair.
Rookie Historian Gu Hyun, that was really good. I placed that here again. Like, it's as I said, like, you know, tissues mandatory, history not so much. And that leads us to our final list, which is where, do you like idols? Yes. Do you like the historical outfits? Yes.
We love.
Do you give a shit about history? No. This is the drama for you. Yeah, and I think the main contender, I think the poster boy for this category is Hwarang. Nothing that made sense happened in that show. Nothing. It was one historical inaccuracy after another. Like, no one was even trying. Did I watch it? Yes. Did I enjoy it and the soundtrack? Also yes. Very different topics. To a lesser degree, I'd say Rooftop Prince and Sung Kyung Kwan's Scandal.
I don't
Also
think I've
going
heard
to
of those
here.
before. No. Shook.
I occasionally forget you're younger than me. And then you say stuff like that. They were really big when they came out.
Okay, that's right.
Making you Chun, etc. And then as a movie, The Princess and the Matchmaker. That was cute. That was really cute. Okay.
That was
and with with these very few and not at all lengthy recommendations, I think we're gonna leave you to go pick your favorite Seoguk to just dive into and let us know which one you liked more. We have a bunch of reviews about some of these dramas on the website, so you can see, get a feeling for them.
All right, perfect. We will end the episode here. Thank you very much for joining us, Adelansi. And
Thanks for having
we'll
me.
see you guys the next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.